I have the privilege of sitting down with Dr. Allen Lycka, someone whose story is not only very inspiring, but also extremely powerful. In 2003, Dr. Lycka was told he had 6 months to live due to ALS. Refusing to accept this prognosis, Dr. Lycka sought alternative opinions and was eventually diagnosed with chronic limb disease, treatable and survivable. From that turning point, Dr. Lycka embarked on a mission to live fully, help others unlock their true potential, and spread the message of hope and growth. Today, he is an international speaker, best-selling author of the Golden Pearl series, host of podcast reaching over 7 million listeners globally, and a guiding light for individuals and organizations aiming to thrive in adversity. Dr. Lycka, it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you for joining. Let's start with your story. What's going through your mind when you are told 6 months to live? What was the moment that you moved from despair to action, and what was the mind shift required at that time? So why don't you tell us that defining moment?
Well, first, let me thank you for having me today. It is my pleasure to be on your show. You know, when you're told, get your affairs in order, you have 6 months to live, I want your audience to think about that. How would you feel that you've been handed a death sentence, that you literally walk into a doctor, think everything's fine, and that doctor pulls the rug out from underneath you and you land flat on your head? And what phases do you go through? Well, like any human being, I went through phases of anger. I was angry. My immediate reaction to this doctor was, can you prove this diagnosis? And he said, yes, an autopsy. And I went out of the room, I slammed the door, and I said, I'm not going to die to prove you wrong. And then I got to my car somehow. I cried for hours. Somehow I got home and I told my wife the diagnosis. And she said, I don't believe it. I don't know what you have, but you don't have ALS. You don't have Lou Gehrig's disease. But then you go through other phases. What do? You go through bargaining. Oh God, please don't let this happen. I'll do anything if you don't let this happen. You go through denial. You deny that anything is wrong. Well, all this started with my right foot not working right. It was flapping on the pavement. It wouldn't lift it up. You know, your brain is programmed so that when you walk, one foot lifts up after the other. My right foot wasn't doing that. So the next thing that happened is my right hand became non-useful. Now, I was a right-handed cosmetic surgeon. That posed immense problems for my work. But you know, if you're in despair, you learn how to handle it. So I became a left-handed cosmetic surgeon. Everything I could do with my right hand, I trained my left hand to do. And if you're a right-handed person, that's a very hard task. But I was able to do it. You know, there's the old saying that if you repeat something 10,000 times, you can do it. Well, that's what I did. And I excelled at it. But then you go through depression. Have you ever gone through depression, my friend?
Yes, at times. Yes. Everybody goes to the depression. Yes.
Well, this was severe depression. I could stay all day in bed staring at the ceiling and not do anything. Why should I? I was going to die anyhow.
Anyway.
So why would I want to do anything else? So I literally had to go through these phases. In fact, I had a plan to kill myself because I was not going to die in my own secretions like I'd seen people with ALS do. So I said, before I did that, I went to my wife. I said, dear, what do I do? She said, you're smart, you'll figure it out. I said, dear, I've seen every doctor I know of. And she said, perhaps you haven't seen the right doctor yet. So back then, in the early 2000s, something new was invented. You might have heard about it. It's called the internet. You ever heard
Yes.
of that beast? But back then it was primitive. You had to put a phone on a cradle. It would go for 15 minutes. And if connected, you could get to the other side. But our computers had no memory back then. So you had to communicate by a primitive language like DOS. And then you could get to the other side. But the internet was much like it is now. It was full of garbage cans as well as some books. And you could learn some great things, but you always had these garbage cans that you couldn't get beyond. But I had friends that were nerds and they were able to guide me. And I found a doctor in Colorado Springs, Colorado, David Martz, that was going through what I was doing. But he got sick much more rapidly. And he was on his deathbed when doctors from around the world were coming to say goodbye to David. And one came up from Texas and looked at David and said, I don't think you have ALS. David says, what do I have? He said, you have chronic Lyme's disease. You've been bitten by a tick and it mimics ALS. And he said, if I'm right, I can make you better. David said, what have I had to lose? I'm dying. So that doctor started him on treatment and he got better. So I knew I had to reach Dr. Martz. So I phoned every hospital in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I got in touch with him at the Methodist Hospital. And we talked for hours. And he said, could you come down and see me? I said, when? He said, right now. I said, David, it's Thanksgiving in Canada. My wife will kill me. She's invited 50 people over. He said, aren't there any planes in Canada? So I went to my wife, my hat in my hand, and I said, dear, I'm not going to be here for Thanksgiving. And she said, why? I said, I'm going to Colorado Springs. There's a doctor who claims he can help me. That's when my wife did a 180-degree turn and said, what are you waiting for? I'll pack your bags for you. I'll drive you to the airport. Come on, you're wasting time. So there we were in Colorado Springs after a terrible journey. But I got there and I crawled off the airplane and there was David on the tarmac to meet me. And he said, Dr. Lycka, you're not looking so good. I said, I'm not feeling so good. He said, well, it's probably an analogy of what you've been going through. And we met and we talked for hours. And he said some magic words. He said, I think history is repeating itself. And if he said, if you follow my advice, I will make you better. And that's why I'm living in 2025 and thriving. That's why I was able to overcome the adversity I had faced. And I tell you the story not for me. I tell you this for your listeners because they have adversities. They may be going through troubles in their businesses. They may be troubles in their marriages. They may be addicted to substances. They may be addicted to alcohol. They may be addicted to drugs. They may have had a prison problem. But you know, all these are overcomable with the right mindset. You see, it all starts in your mind. It is no place else it starts around. It starts right in your mind because that is where it starts. And the first decision you have to make is to make the decision you're going to overcome. That if you get knocked down 9 times, you're going to get up 10. That whatever the adversity that has you is not going to define you. You are going to overcome it. And you know, many of the problems we have around are decided in our mind, but started in our childhood, because someplace along the way we engineered these false beliefs and false stories in our mind. And those false beliefs and stories follow us our whole life. You might have been told that one time you're not good enough. You might have been told by somebody, you'll never be good enough. They didn't concentrate on your behavior, they concentrated on you. And that little voice got inside of you and it stayed there forever. And that voice is there hindering you in every step you take.
Thank you, Dr. Lycka, to sharing this. So what I understand that, it's very natural that when someone is told that 6 months, so angry first, and then the despair and the frustration feel to suicide. But you had a family. Someone is saying that no, that is the kind of a catalyst help you that to keep you the grounded, and then challenge that, that no, I'm not going to do that. And number two, you have changed that right hand man, started doing everything with the left hand. So it's amazing that everything is possible. You are an example that everything is possible if you have that right mindset. So from that moment, you have written the golden pearls of wisdom. So could you share what they are? And then in today's world, which pearls matter most?
Okay. I'm just going to pick up my book here and show it to everybody.
Yes.
This is the book I created for everybody. It's called The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. This book was written out of my hardship. It was written as a result of that. And I chose the title specifically, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, because there are secrets. They are wisdom that's down inside of you. They are pearls of wisdom. And do you know how a pearl forms, Ram?
Yeah, that's I think the very simple thing, that the creature in the sea, and it look very ugly, but inside that shell that the pearls are formed.
Yes, and you know, in the South Pacific, there are these creatures, these oysters that
Right.
produce golden pearls. And what happens is a little grain of sand gets inside of these oysters, and the oyster doesn't get destroyed by it. It just walls it off with this beautiful material called luster. And these particular pearls are so rare that a single solitary pearl can cost upwards of $10,000. But the pearls inside of you are even rarer. They're even more valuable than those golden pearls, because those golden pearls are so beautiful that you have inside of you, and you have to just discover them and bring them to the forefront of your existence. And that's what my book is meant to do. It's meant for people to bring out these golden pearls inside of themselves and literally help them to go on. So I've discovered 13 golden pearls, and each one is fantastic, and each one has a special story. So could I tell you one of the stories?
Yeah, please.
Okay, one of the stories is love. And there was a beautiful little girl. She had red, beautiful hair. She never walked. She skipped every pace she'd go. The world was her oyster. She was so happy and so angelic. She was being raised by her father because her mother had died. And she still was happy as anything else. One day she wrapped a box in wrapping paper and gave it to her father. And money was tight, so he got angry with her because when he opened it, there appeared to be nothing inside. And he yelled at her. And she said, "Dad, I blew kisses in that box, and they're just for you." He was mortified at what he had done, and he begged for her forgiveness. A little while later, the little girl died in a tragic car accident, and the father was all alone. Occasionally, he'd bring out the box and he'd hear her whispering. He'd feel her on his lap. He'd feel her kissing him and whispering in his ear. Now, he died of a broken heart and he went up to heaven. And there was St. Peter at the pearly gates, and he said, "We can't let anybody in here. We only let you in if you give me something special." And he gave him the beautiful box. And St. Peter said, "Come on in. You are welcome. You've given us the gift of pure love." And when he went inside, he saw his daughter. And he said, "Oh, this is so beautiful. I missed you so much." And she said, "Why? You know, when I died, God made me into an angel. When you were sad, I'd sit on your lap. I'd whisper in your ear. I'd tell you I loved you so much." Now, that is the story of true love. That is the story which everybody needs to know.
Yeah, what a wonderful story. So how, the organizations, the leaders can apply these pearls, find their side challenges, find their build teams.
You know, I think that is where I developed another book for people called Rule the Game, because everybody in their business life needs to know how to rule the game. And at the very heart, they must be human. So they can use this book, my first book, Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, to develop the culture of their business. But then they can take the second book, Rule the Game, to take their business and put it to a new level and take it and help their business transcends the thing. Because what you have to be when you're in a business, you have to be unique. You have to be different than everybody else. And if you're not unique, what's going to happen is you're going to be just said, you're the same as everybody else. And the first thing you have to do is what is known as a unique sales proposition or a unique
Yes.
educational proposition, so that you tell everybody what's different about you from everybody else. Now, for some people, that's 3 or 4 words. For some people, that's a sentence. Some people, it really is something unique. You know, Domino's Pizza, when it was developing one many years ago, had a mantra of there in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. So, in other words, they didn't talk about the quality of their bread. They didn't talk about their tomato sauce. They didn't talk about all the other things that are quantitative. What they did was say, "We will get you our pizza in 30 minutes or less, or it's free." Can you picture how that made a difference for people in a day when they were hungry and they wanted the pizza now?
Yes, definitely. That's their uniqueness. They'll deliver you in 30 minutes, right? That's the differentiation.
Exactly. Whereas everybody else was concentrating on their tomato sauce or their
Hmm.
crust or their things that are not that hard for somebody else to duplicate.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, so the USP, yes. So that's a very valid point, and every business leaders have to, the organization have to identify. But I again come back to the pearls, the 13 pearls you have written, So, how can leaders, other than the USP apply, and then when they're building building their team, how can they apply some of those pearls?
Some of them is one is thankfulness. You know,
Mhm.
there is a pearl everybody can be grateful for. You know,
Gratefulness,
if
okay.
you're thankful every day for everything you do, that makes a tremendous difference. If you're thankful for your customers, if you're thankful for the work you have, if you're thankful for to be working even, can you picture how much that changes your mindset into making your business different. There's a great little book out in the world called The Fred Factor, Fred, F-R-E-D Factor. And it's based on the life of an ordinary postman and how that postman made such a superior difference for his customers, just making it a special situation. Like he'd go around and find, that they're getting junk mail, and he'd find they're not in town this week. So he'd hide the junk mail between their doors so people wouldn't know that they're gone. Little things like that. At Thanksgiving, he'd put a special ribbon on their mailbox. At Christmas, he'd put a candy cane on it just to make it a special day for people. Now, this is a postman. Can you picture how much a difference you can do in your life with that? When I was a cosmetic doctor, I made sure every staff member knew the patient's first name and knew something about them. It was essential that you knew about them. That way, you can make a difference in everybody's life.
Yeah. So what you are saying that the gratitude. So gratitude, if you can bring in, and then that will give the success. So the organization should remember that, they should be grateful. They should be thankful what they are today. Correct.
And
So
another one is enthusiasm. Can
yeah.
you picture if you go into every situation with enthusiasm, like it's the most important thing in the world that's ever going to happen to you? Can you picture how the game gets changed just by being enthusiastic? That is essential for things.
Okay, coming back, because you have shared your personal story, that how did you overcome the challenges. Now you are these helping the organizations to shape. So when people face challenges, either in the business or personal life, so what is the first step you guide them to take?
The first step I suggest people do is pause. Stop for a while and just take it all in. Then look at that challenge from different perspectives. Think of how your teacher would have solved that challenge. Think of how your father would have solved that challenge. Think of how a former boss would have solved that challenge. Think of how different people in your life would solve that. Think if Bill Gates had that challenge, how would he solve it? Think how other people would solve that challenge. And then you have a new perspective on that challenge in order to move forward. And then have a team meeting with the most important in your members of your team, so you can literally help them decide what's going on and move forward from there.
Yeah. So the first step, don't take the situation or occurrence take over. You take a pause and look at a different angle and help others also to give some perspectives. Now, how do you help people not just survive tough times, but actually find happiness and purpose through them? You did it yourself, but then how do you help others that you're not only surviving, but find happiness and purpose?
I have a syndicated radio show called Live with the Famous Dr. Al. That's A-L.
Oh, yeah.
People can come and listen to my show and get perspective and learn every day how people overcome adversity and how they have used that to challenge themselves to new aspects of their life. I welcome people to do that. And I also welcome to reach out to me and tell me about their problems. Also tell me about their successes, because I think people need successes. I'm also starting a coaching program for people to help them with the 7 pillars in their lives that need to be addressed so that they can have a fantastic life too. So I'm developing tools for them to help them. So reach out to me and I'll put you on a waiting list for people that'll be allowed into my programs.
So you mentioned, the fantastic life. So what does fantastic life mean to you?
You know, the fantastic life means living every day to the fullest. Every day you need to do things that you then take your life to the next level. You know, nothing is certain but when you're here and right now. You know, your past is gone. You
Yep.
can't do anything about it. It's finished. The future is not here yet. You can plan for it, but it's not here yet. All we can do is affect today. So you need to live each day today as if it's the last day on the planet.
Yes. So yes. So that I think the mind shift is important. You mentioned early, and but then where should they start? Because you mentioned in your books also the habits, the changing habits. So where should they start? Where should be the starting point?
Well, first thing, it starts in the morning, where the first thing you don't do is pick up your cell phone and start going through your emails that have come over the night. The first part of the day is in quiet, in solitude, in giving thanks. I believe in God, so I say thanks to God every day. And I spend some minutes with God every day and ask Him to guide me in my opportunities and ways that I can do that. And then after that, I look at my schedule and see how my schedule is structured so I can handle that. And I try to structure my schedule so I'm not overwhelmed every day, so I can do my utmost every day. And every evening, I shut down at 7 or 8 o'clock. No more mechanical devices. I might watch a movie with my wife, I might read, but no more of this onslaught that goes on us with us 24/7. Because that's where the danger comes in. That's the problem. That's where burnout comes in, because we're always going at breakneck speed. And it's called breakneck speed for a reason.
Yeah. So again, come back that, the pause and personal time start in the morning. So if you have a God, if you believe in God, or if you have somebody, so you do the, discussion with that, the God or that person. So now when a professionals in the grind, what are the signs, they should look for that they need to pause and then realign? So what are the signs the professionals should look for?
Well, first of all, when a person's overstressed, they get snappy, they get angry, their personality is not there. They're not in the calm zone. They're not in that zone when they're always in the reactive state. They're always in a state where they think they're always on the verge. The second thing is, quite often there's too much on their plate every day. If there's too much on the plate, there's only three things you can do. One is to delegate, one is to delete, and the third one is to do. So you need to find ways to deal with that overload. And quite often, bosses in a situation have problems with delegating and deleting. They have problems with first saying, I'm going to do everything. I know it can be done, so I'm the guy who's going to do it. Smarter bosses know how to delegate and delete because they realize they can't do everything.
Yeah. So, so the first sign is that they always remain in the reactive mode. They remain angry. They remain. So these are the signs. When the professionals see these signs, they should take a pause and then realign with their purpose.
Well, and if
So
you need professional help, certainly
also,
seek it out. Remember, you do not have all the answers in your hands. People outside of you can do it. I think everybody in this life, Ram, needs a coach. I think everybody needs somebody outside of themselves to help guide them. Otherwise, they're not going to do things appropriately. You know,
Correct.
professional hockey players have 4 coaches or 5 coaches to help them with every aspect of their game. You know, though, if those people do that, think how much help you can get just by implementing some of the coaching in your life.
I think this is a very important point and for our, the viewers and the audiences, because you cannot solve everything by yourself. There are professionals out there, and it's very wise, the suggestion that you go out and take the help. I think this is also a very important step that, that yes, I am stuck. That is that, they recognize that I'm stuck. I need help. I think that is also very important, these suggestions, what you are giving to my audiences. So my last question to you, if you could leave our audience with just one pearl out of your 13 pearls to carry with them after today, what would it be?
There's one sentence I'd like to say, and that's from a sophist that lived over 2,000 years called Epictetus. He said, "It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens." I'm going to repeat that because this is so profound. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. That is the most important thing to do in any situation in life. In a great book called The Ascent of Man, which was written by a prisoner of war in a Nazi concentration camp, he made sure that was his philosophy, even though he was under intolerable conditions. He phrased them in such a way he was able to get through each and every day. Can you picture every day that you get through and live it to the fullest and to the maximum? Now, none of us are in a Nazi concentration camp, but some of us put ourselves in concentration camps by what we do.
Yeah, so that's the Dr. Frankl, he has written, man's, search for purpose, and then how he survived, and then came with the, this the technology that how to heal people. So the purpose is very important.
Yes.
Doctor, I asked you my last question. So do you have any advice other than the last pearl that you have shared with the audiences?
I would say reach out to me. I'm available, drallenlycka.com. Pick
Mhm.
out my books, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life and Rule the Game. They're available on Amazon. Watch my syndicated radio show. It's available wherever Apple is. It's live, Live, with the famous Dr. Al, A-L, and you will get, I will guarantee, with every show, with every bit of wisdom I share with you, you will get value and meaning.
Dr. Allen Lycka, thank you for sharing your incredible journey and wisdom with us. And to our viewers, I hope you take these pearls and reflect on how they apply to your own path. Until next time, stay focused, stay strong, and keep moving forward. Thank you, Dr. Allen Lycka.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Thank you for having me.